So we've got a few stories here that we're going to have a look through that sort of correlate with some of the data we've pulled from our Trends platform. Just a couple of interesting examples of what's going on. Keep everyone up to date, I guess. So this first story comes from Charged Retail, but it's based on some new research from the open banking platform called Yapily. I've never heard. Have you heard of that before?
I've heard of open banking stuff before, like Tink and that, but never come across Yapily.
No, I've never heard of this one. So basically, the research is saying that UK businesses are potentially losing up to £656 million in missed revenue a year. And they're putting that down to a poor online checkout experience. So I think this is something that you're quite well aware of and discuss a lot with partners, isn't it?
It's a big thing. Like the amount of times you'll go into a website's checkout, and it's not so much on like a standardized platform, but maybe a bespoke where they won't even allow like guest checkout. And we've all been there before, where you sit in a checkout and you can't be bothered entering your mother's maiden name and all the other
what are the
jazz.
thoughts behind not allowing a guest checkout?
I think it's just collection of more data, but I can't imagine why, because you'd surely get the data from the order anyway.
Is it just a speed of process thing?
I think
just
so.
Taking away the fields?
I think so, yeah, but like the guest checkout side of things is just like, I don't want to make an account, I don't have an account, just let me go through and buy.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not have it? And there's also other stuff though, isn't there? Like you'll go into, I think Boots is a good example of this, where you can add 10 grand's worth of product, for argument's sake, to the basket. I'm not saying go and do this, by the way, but you can do that. And then in the checkout, you can literally remove all the items with one click.
Okay.
So it's like you're going to drop an entire basket there.
Yeah.
From someone who just can't be bothered, or maybe has entered too much and is getting a bit flaky, when the normal process would be like, oh no, you reduce them by like an item at a time or whatever. It's crazy.
It's saying here also that manually inputting card details is the biggest deterrent at online checkouts, and I think that matches up with what you're saying a little bit, like the over-complication of the process. But I guess at a point you've got to put them details in at some point, and that's surely that some responsibility comes on the shopper at that point of having some sort of setup, whether it's a password system or Samsung banking or something like that, or iPhone, Apple Pay.
Well, that's exactly it. Like, I think people nowadays are accustomed to, like, if you go on Amazon, for example, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure you still have to enter your card details. You don't have like an Apple Pay function or anything like that. You might have Amazon Pay, to be fair. But like you say there, like people nowadays are accustomed to going on whatever site they want and doing Apple Pay and check out in like 2 clicks in my Face ID. That's that. Versus sitting there and going, right, okay, let me get the long card number out. Oh, not that card, I'm going to do this one. And again, with young generations and whatnot being more accustomed with buy now, pay later and things like that, it's that simple to check out through it. Like, that friction is going to cost you money. Yeah,
I do tend to put look, I might not stop the purchase entirely, but I will put it off if there's no PayPal set up, for example, if I do have to go for the card.
That's it as well. Like, the amount of times I spend, because I'm quite a forgetful person, I'll be faffing about at home and I'll be looking for my wallet. It's the example we use in the office of like lost transactions on a website is literally that of, oh, where's my wallet? Can't find my card, I'll abandon this one.
Yeah.
Whereas if I have Apple Pay direct on my phone, ding ding, done, see you later, ordered.
What would you say the downsides are of having like a wider range of payment methods at checkout? Are there any real downsides to that? Apart from cost, obviously.
Yeah, I think there's certain ones that I think, what's the site? It's JD, I think, where they have about 13 or something. It's a common example on like LinkedIn. You'll see people going like, oh, they've got Alipay, for example, or WeChat or whatever it may be, alongside 4 buy now, pay laters in the UK, and then your credit, debit card, all the rest of it. I personally can't see that much of a downside of having those options, but have them displayed via the place that's relevant to them.
Right, okay.
So having a Chinese, for example, banking system display in the UK might not be what you need. Display that in that territory if you're selling there. There's different ways and means of using it, I think, and it's just about having the tools that are right for each place. Like, I think, what was it, Klarna used to say that buy now, pay later was more commonly used in Germany than like credit, debit card. So having that as your primary method over there, but having credit, debit card in the UK, probably a better way of doing it, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so it's like surfacing the right info at the right time, I guess.
100%. I think you just got to, it's like everything we do and everything we look at, you've got to find that need of the customer and go, right, this is what they would prefer to do, let's do that there. It just makes more sense.
It always comes down to just, I know it sounds like a bit of a sort of cop out, but it always does come down to just having a look at your tech stack, having a look at what you've got set up, having a look at your customer journey, and going from there.
100%. Like, if your site isn't set up for the way that your customers want to shop, then what's the point?
Yeah. How do people get feedback on that stuff? I mean, I don't see many emails going out for feedback on checkout.
It's true.
I feel like it's one place people don't want anyone's opinion in the field when it comes to the money coming through. That everyone knows better at that point.
Yeah, because you're right. You get reviews on shopping experience, reviews on the website, reviews on delivery, reviews on the product itself, of course. But nobody ever goes, "Oh, that was a nightmare." Like, I didn't want to pay with buy now, pay later, for example.
It's an odd blind spot, isn't it? It's like nobody wants to admit the faults to it because they're so happy with how the money's landing in the bank.
That's probably
and
what
they
it
don't
is.
want to mess with it.
I mean, if someone wanted to drop a random 50 quid in my bank every 2 hours, I wouldn't be asking where it came from.
Yeah, it is an odd one. I don't know whether Keelan's pulled this one specifically because I got heat for my opinions on this last time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I always like to throw ChatGPT in there just to watch your face
Can I
twist.
clarify? I know probably like... I know this isn't going out to the world, and the world's probably not bothered on my opinion on it, but my point last time wasn't that it was bad technology, well, which is debatable anyway, but that wasn't what I was saying. It was the way people talk about it was my problem.
Yes.
It wasn't. I had no problem with the tech.
Yeah. I mean, I completely understand the perspective of something that's been around 3 months and people are calling themselves experts in the field. It's like the people making this stuff don't even understand what's going on. So
this is the point. The people who make it don't understand what they've let out of the box.
Yeah.
How is some guy from like Sunderland who's got a marketing agency of about three
Thanks
people?
for the shout out.
Yeah, maybe we might have to bleep this. And this is I don't know anyone in Sunderland who might interview people.
You don't know anyone from...
He's a new consultant who, it's a bit like, you know, when crypto came about, then it's one of these things where it's trending, but nobody understands it. So people go, I understand it.
Well,
give me some
this
cash.
is why Sam Bankman-Fried could get away with what he did and do what he did because...
Who's this?
This was the FTX guy.
Oh, right, okay.
So this is the guy that was running FTX and he was sitting on League of Legends while he was on phone calls to investors and stuff like that, and it was just madness. Everything that was going on, the sheer levels of corruption and pyramid scheme stuff going on was crazy because there was a lack of understanding around it and there's a certain amount of opacity, so you can't quite figure it out. And I think ChatGPT is a very similar thing in terms of the technology itself, but it does kind of segue quite nicely from what you were saying about the Klarna stuff, because Klarna have integrated with ChatGPT now as well. There's a lot of different businesses now that the business side of it's opened up, who are starting to try and explore opportunities and see what it can do and how they can utilize it. And I think it was interesting seeing what you mentioned earlier, Josh, about the fact that a lot of these companies have this technology in the background kind of all ready to go, and then they're just kind of integrating with these things. But
Yeah.
I think to do a lot with the fact that with the, you know, the amount lost at checkout and stuff like that, a lot of it's younger generations and stuff like that that want ease of use, less friction. They just want to go. I think something like this is really interesting because it's now offering suggestions, it's offering stuff, so it's kind of like similar to our recommendations and stuff like that, where it's trying to push people towards different things to boost sort of average order values, boost basket values. So I think in terms of what it can provide, I think we're just kind of scratching the surface with it, but I found it quite an interesting sort of little talking point.
Yeah, it is interesting. I guess you've introed into our the next story. So they have built a plugin for ChatGPT. So you can get this from the... I didn't realise there was a plugin. I didn't realise it had its own app store.
So what this essentially will do is, I don't think it's a plugin in that sense, from what I'm reading anyway. It seems very much like a plugin within the Klarna app, I suppose, is what you describe it as.
So you can ask it for shopping ideas.
Yeah, so basically they run a CSS service, don't they? So like if you looked for black Adidas shoes or black Vans shoes or whatever it be, then it'd show you the prices from all the retailers that send the feeds to them.
So is it like I'd go on and say, it's my mother's birthday. She likes this, this, and this. She watches this. Does this as a job. What should I get her for a present?
Yeah. Or like my mum's 47-year-old, she loves, I don't know, Midsummer Murders or whatever. Find me this. Like, and then it'd go, right, okay, we found you a signed poster from the cast of Midsummer Murders. There you go.
I know it's bringing back already. It's going to be like season 2, used box set, CEX. That's all it's going to give you.
That's what it'll do. But the idea is, what I think,
Used, lightly worn.
what you got to think though, quite cleverly, is if that CSS service that Klarna are running is based on a commission-led model, and it's providing the better recommendations, and they've wired something with this intelligence in. Money.
Yeah, that is cool. So it's like a really... I guess it's recommendations for the web then, isn't it? It's like a recommendation system before the internet.
And because they're running it on an affiliate model, they're wiring all the people that have Klarna on the websites and everybody who advertises via affiliates. So every product from most UK retailers will be on there, but then backed up by this intelligence to then, God knows what money's going through. That is all I'll say.
It's that's a good point. I mean, marketing-wise, it's an amazing name to claim some sort of integration with. And also the amount of people playing about with it. But again, it's that thing where it comes back to the real value is targeting the people playing about with it. It's not targeting the people who are using it in their daily lives. It's like it's people messing about with it. That's where all the money's coming from.
Yeah,
that's where all of the LinkedIn clout's coming from. It's people who've messed about with it and people who've done this and done that, and they claim it's going to change your business. It's like you've probably... If you're going to pay a consultant to teach your old ChatGPT for your business, you probably paid him to show you about crypto. You probably paid him to show you about black hat SEO back in the day.
Black hat.
It's one of them things. It's just this constant, it's the constant dance and charade of what's next.
I think
that was my problem.
Yeah, no, I get you, and I think because it's new. I think we're at that stage now where you've got to kind of work your way through the BS basically, because there's definitely value. There's definitely ways which it can be utilised. However, all the comms channels and everything's just rammed with stuff about this, and you're kind of trying to work out, well, is that real value or is that just snake oil?
It just plays on people's insecurities of what they already don't know in an industry full of acronyms and bullshit, for a better term. It's one of those. It's just a bit more noise in that they're already very noisy.
Will you please stop, because I built a career on acronyms and bullshit.
Marketplace of ideas.
Thank you.
And that's it. I've used this as to further my agenda. I apologise.
It's not furthering your agenda though, technically, is it? Because it is now banned in Italy as well.
Oh, well, they might have been listening.
There you go. The Italian government heard it here first. Is it still Berlusconi? No fun.
Don't know align with that guy. Yeah, so that is an interesting one for retailers. I think if you do want an idea of where ChatGPT can genuinely actually get involved with sort of this industry, it's, I guess, going to check that out might be a little nice indicator for where things might be going in the future anyway, from the recommendation side of things. So we'll have a rundown of performance of industries from last month, I guess. So clothing and accessories is up 4.4%, March versus February, which is a good sign again. I think everything is looking pretty good. I think the green shoots of recovery, whereas they might not be there.
Well, these stats were accurate as of the 31st.
Okay,
so
cool.
That's right at the end of the month. And I think the year-on-year as well as the month-on-month are doing pretty well across the board.
Yeah.
So I do think we are finally starting to see that the fact that the month-on-month is getting better, but we're actually in a better position than we were last year as well. So even amongst the uncertainty, everything that's going on, I think we're seeing some positive movement.
So I'll go through our top 5 visitors, I guess, and then I'll go through top 5 for revenue, and I guess I'll just list them off, and then we've got a good we can chop
exactly.
chop it up. So visitors, clothing accessories are up 4.4% month on month, and they're also up 1.9% year on year. Food and drink is up 5% month on month, 4% year on year. Gaming is the next one, up 6% month on month. Huge, 40% up year on year though, which is massive.
Huge.
What do we think's driving that? Is it because there's a bit of a lull with gaming, wasn't there, across COVID when people weren't able to sort of
well, it's like anything else.
Develop much?
Like these AAA developers and stuff like that, everybody got hit with production, same across the film industry and stuff like that. So there's this huge backlog, but there's been the release of Elden Ring, which I know you're a fan of, Josh.
Yes.
And that is the most awarded game in history now. So that's had a massive uptick, and probably the biggest one is Hogwarts Legacy. So I think there's a lot of that in terms of those figures there, which has made a big jump.
That's really interesting. Pharmaceuticals are up 0.5% month on month and 0.16% year on year. And our last one there is vehicle parts and accessories, up 3.3% March versus February, and year on year they're up 6%, which is pretty interesting for a top 5, I think. And do you want to take the revenue ones, Tim?
Yeah, let's go for it. So revenue, right here, clothing and accessories from March to February is up 4.09%. Year on year, 9.06. Again, just shows that trend of recovery, I think, as you're saying there, Josh. The mad one for me, though, is like what went on basically in March. So the next stat I'm going to look at is March versus February, food and drink, 10.59% increase in revenue.
It's an interesting one.
I'm trying to think, like,
is it the thing where, like, as cost of living really sets in, people go out? We've sort of seen it before, where people are going out less, spending more on eating in, and like takeaways and things like that potentially.
Could be like Mother's Day stuff as well, I suppose.
That's true.
If you're looking at food and drinks, probably incorporates chocolates and whatnot, I'd imagine.
It's still a little bit cheaper than going away or going out, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. You pick that stuff up online and there you go, mum's happy, jobs are good. And year on year, that is 2.2%. Home and living, March versus February, is 6.93%. Year on year, it's 2.91%. Jewellery and accessories is 5.52%, March versus Feb. And again, year on year is 4.1%. Musical instruments and accessories. Now, this was a big one during COVID when people were obviously trapped at home and started learning guitars and whatnot. And like you're saying there, Josh, I'm wondering if there is a correlation, because March versus February, obviously we're talking about Cosy Lives, and it's up 10.01%. Year on year, 19.29%.
That is interesting. Again, it might be that people are going out less. They're starting to pick up hobbies indoors. So you buy an instrument, you've got
hours of fun.
You've got hours of fun. Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth.
Literally sounds like an old Hasbro advert or something. Pharmaceuticals. I'm assuming this is legal pharmaceuticals, by the way.
I would assume so, yeah.
You can't check the streets.
Yeah. Can't check the streets, yeah.
March versus February is 0.17%, and year on year is 0.59%, so quite a slow one. This is an interesting one, and one that's dear to my heart in more ways than one. Vaping, March versus February, 1.97% increase. Year on year, 0.49%. And that,
odd.
It is an odd one to see that minimal increase when you walk around town centres and all you tend to see now are vape shops everywhere. But is that the reason?
Yeah, the city centre vape shop has cropped up in buildings where you're seeing other retailers go under, and all of a sudden it's a vape shop.
That, or you've got like a vintage clothing store or something like that.
The PR hasn't been great recently, though, has it? Hasn't there been things discontinued and things sort of taken out of circulation, things like that?
Yeah, I think there was a long time where shelves were kind of bare. I think it was to do with the nicotine levels or something like that.
Okay.
And let's be real, it's still something where I feel like it's not fully understood as a thing. Like, it's not like, we know smoking is bad and we know it is not something you should do.
You heard it here first.
Yes, there you go. I can say this now. But vaping's something where people know nothing about it really, what's inside of it and stuff like that. So I'm assuming
the long-term studies are still getting done, aren't they? Really, there's some stuff coming out, but then there's the politics of it as well. I think of the people where they're going to say, "Oh, well, it's actually worse for your health than smoking," because there's going to be a push for that, isn't there, for PR to get people smoking again?
It's funny that it's like we've got this new alternative. Oh, it's safer for you. Why is it safer? Just we know nothing about it.
There you go.
It has to be because
the other one's so bad.
Yeah. It's a difficult one.
I guess that rounds us off there then. A little bit of a disclaimer. This is all taken from our Trends network, which is UK based. So we're not pulling any sort of other international stats into it yet. But I mean, that's on the horizon for Q4, Q1 next year, I think.
I was going to say, don't put a time on it. They'll hold you to that.
I know, we'll hold us to that. Yeah, but it is based on over 3 billion, I think now, customer journeys. So like I think it was the ONS stuff we were comparing that recently, and we're hitting pretty accurate.
For real?
Yeah. We're really accurate now. But yeah, a little disclaimer there. I'll round that there. Thanks for joining me, and we'll do this again next week.